What's going on, guys? It's Kyle with the How'd You Get 123 here, and today I'll be showing you guys how to run Windows in a virtual machine using a free program called VirtualBox. Now, if you guys don't know what a virtual machine is, I'm pretty sure you guys do if you're watching this video, but a virtual machine is when you run an operating system inside a program that imitates dedicated hardware on top of your current operating system. So in this example, I have Windows 10 running inside VirtualBox on top of my current Windows 10 installation. The nice thing is this Windows 10 is completely separate from this from my current Windows 10 system here, as the complete full version of Windows 10, just like you'd have it running on any other computer. And the nice thing about VirtualBox is you don't only have to run Windows 10, you can run pretty much any version of any operating system. So you can run Mac OS, you can run Linux, you can even run Android, which is really nice, and any version of Windows. In this tutorial though, we're specifically focusing on Windows, specifically Windows 7 to 10. You can run any, Vista and XP if you want, but this video is specifically focused for 7, 8, 8.1, and 10. Because those other operating systems, you kind of have to tweak a few things. But anyways, that's pretty much all I wanted to say before we get into the tutorial. Oh yeah, one more thing. This video is quite long, so in the description I'll leave timestamps that you can click on if you just want to skip through the video to a specific part. But other than that, let's go ahead and get right into the tutorial. So the first thing we need to do is actually make sure our computer is compatible with virtualization. So the most important thing here is our CPU. So we're going to need to make sure that our CPU supports virtualization. And to do that, to actually check what CPU you have, if you don't know, just come down here to the start menu, go to settings, system, and about, and under processor here, this is the CPU that you have. So I have an Intel i7-4790K, and you're going to want to, it could be an AMD too, it doesn't matter whether you have AMD or Intel. All that matters is that it actually supports virtualization, and to check this, just throw that into Google. So like I said, I have an Intel i7-4790K, and if you come down here on the Intel website, it's under advanced technologies and Intel virtualization. If it says yes, then you're good to go. If it says no, then you're out of luck. You also want to make sure, this kind of goes along with this, but generally you want your CPU to be a 64-bit CPU and have at least 2 cores. But as you see here, I have 4 cores, and I don't know where it says 64 bits. But as long as you have those, then you're good to go. But generally you need 2 cores. If you don't have 2 cores, then it's not a 64-bit CPU. It won't support virtualization. Oops, stutter. Yeah, generally you want to have that. Also, if you have an AMD CPU, right here, for example, the Ryzen 5 1600X, if you come down here to under technologies and key features, you see here that it supports virtualization. Whoops, right there. So you're good to go. You also want to make sure that you have enough RAM. So I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. I would say you want to have at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. 4 gigabytes might work, but I'll go over why you want to have I'll go over in a sec why you probably want to have at least 8 gigabytes, because we're going to allocate RAM to the system, and for Windows 10 at least, you want to have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, and you don't want to use more than half your RAM. So if you have 4 gigabytes, that's probably the bare minimum, but I would say you want to at least have 8 gigabytes of RAM installed in your system. You also want to make sure that you have enough hard drive space, because we're going to be putting a virtual hard drive on our system, and this is stored in a file on your hard drive. So let's say you have 32 gigabytes allocated on your system, your virtual system, and that's going to be stored in a 32 gigabyte file on your hard drive. So you want to make sure that you have enough space on your hard drive to store this file. Usually what I do is I put them on an external hard drive, but that's totally up to you. As long as you have enough space to support or to store these files, then you're going to be okay. So the next thing we need to do is actually come back here to our CPU, and so right here it says Intel virtualization, yes, but this is actually a setting in our BIOS, and the same thing goes with all CPUs. This is actually a setting in our BIOS, and it's actually turned off by default. So what we need to do is actually go into our BIOS and turn on Intel, or just virtualization in general, or else when we actually go to make our system, it's not going to let us do that. So I'll show you guys how to do that in a sec. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but I'll just show you how I would do it on my motherboard, and I'll give you guys some suggestions where it might be on your in your BIOS. Alright, so what we're going to want to do is actually go ahead and restart our computer. So just come down here to the start menu, power, and restart. And it's actually restarting on my other monitor. But give it a second to restart, and once you get to the BIOS or the boot screen, you're going to want to hit the button to go into your BIOS. Now it's going to be different for everybody. For me, it's delete. You can see it says right there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it says press delete or F2 to enter UEFI BIOS settings. So you're going to want to hit whatever button it says to go into the BIOS. And then mine's going to be kind of fancy. So mine here, you can see it's kind of, oh yes. So mine actually has capabilities to use the mouse, but my mouse for some reason just never works. So you're going to want to use the keyboard to navigate through it, and you're going to want to find Intel virtualization. You're just going to look completely different probably. I just have a fancy motherboard, so it kind of looks nice and fancy. But it's going to look something like this, and you're going to want to go ahead and find Intel virtualization or AMD virtualization, just something that says virtualization, and we're going to need to turn it on. So for me, I believe it's in advanced CPU, and then if we come down here to right here, Intel virtualization technology, it might say Intel-VT or Intel or AMD-V, or just something along the lines of virtualization, and you're going to want to turn that on. So for me, you can see it's already enabled, but if it's disabled, you're going to want to enable it, and that's going to actually allow us to run a virtual machine on our computer. If we didn't have this on, it wouldn't let us at all. So that's good. Now we can actually go ahead and exit, save changes, and reset, and now we can actually go and make our virtual machine. So next we're going to actually need to get our operating system that we're going to use in VirtualBox. So for this example, I'm going to be using Windows 10, which is right here. Now how you get this is totally up to you. If you're going to be using Windows 10 or Windows 8.1, I'll leave a link in the description where from the Microsoft website where you can actually download it. So what you do, so this is the link for Windows 10. I also provide one for Windows 8.1 as well. So you just click here to just click download tool now, and it's gonna download this thing here. I'm not gonna show you how to do this because I've already done this. It's pretty straightforward. All you do is just run it, yes, and then just go through the whole setup here and to download Windows 10. So it's just saying get a few things ready, and then hold on. I just want to show you something real quick. Let's click accept. And by the way, you can it doesn't matter which version of Windows that you're going to be using. I'm using, like I said, I'm using Windows 10. I also provided Windows 8.1, but if you're going to be using Windows 7, you're going to have to find that elsewhere. You can't actually get it off the Microsoft website. You can just download it from some website online. That doesn't really concern me how you get it. You could, do whatever way you want to get it. You can even, if you have a CD, you can even use a CD, and I'll show you how to do that in a sec. So under what you want to do, make sure that you click create installation media, ISO for another PC, and then just go through the whole setup here to download Windows 10, and it should take about, I think, 5 minutes for me. So I'm just going to quit here, and then we're actually going to go ahead and download VirtualBox now. So by the way, all these links will be in the description below, except these two, because this depends on what CPU you're going to be using. I actually don't need these anymore. I'm going to close them out. So to actually download VirtualBox, this link will be in the description. Just come down here to VirtualBox. Right now it's on version 5.2.8, and then download for Windows or whatever operating system you're going to be using. I'm on Windows 10, so I'm going to download Windows hosts. If you're on Windows 8, 8.17, download this one. If you're on Mac, then download this one, and Linux, download this one. So click on it, and it's going to go ahead and download. And you're also going to want to download VirtualBox, your version number. So if you're on a earlier or a later version, make sure you download the right version, and Oracle VM VirtualBox extension pack. We're going to need this. So just click what these are just like extra features you might want in the future. So we're just going to download them now. So just click all supported platforms, and that's going to download it for the current version. So we're just going to go ahead and install VirtualBox. So just click on it down here in Chrome. Click next, yes, and install, and give this a second. Oh, click yes. And then we're actually not going to start it yet, and then click finish. And next, just click on the VirtualBox extension pack right here. And then it's going to ask you if you want to upgrade, and just click upgrade. And then you're going to need to scroll to the bottom to actually let you click agree. Make sure you read them, very important. Oh, and then click yes. And then that should, and yeah, there you go, successfully installed. Now I've already, I already have some virtual machines pre-installed from before, and this is just don't worry about this. This is just because one of my VirtualBox are broken. So this is what VirtualBox is gonna look like when you first open it. You won't have any of these. These are just previous installations of Windows and Android that I've already done. So to create a new VirtualBox, just come up here to new, and then you can go into guided mode or expert mode. I'm going to go into expert mode and show you guys around. So give your VirtualBox a name. So I'm going to call it Windows 10. Windows 10. And then type, make sure that's a Microsoft Windows, and then version Windows 10 64-bit. Under memory size here, this is the amount of RAM that you're going to allocate to your virtual machine. So like I mentioned before, you don't want to use more than half your RAM. So I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you guys don't know how to check your RAM, come back down here to settings and system and about. Like I said, I have 16 gigabytes of RAM, so I don't want to use more than 8 gigabytes. For Windows 10, you want to have at least 2. I'm probably going to put about 4. So 4 gigabytes is 4096, and 1 is 1024, 2 is 2048, and then 3 is 3072. That doesn't really matter. Just put 4000 if you want for 4 gigs. It doesn't really matter. Just put, it's totally up to you. But I'm gonna put 4 gigs, which is, that's the actual exact amount of 4 gigs. And then under hard disk, create virtual disk now, and then click create. And then this is the amount of space you're gonna give to your VirtualBox, the hard drive space for your VirtualBox. By default, it's saying 50 gigs. I'm gonna put about, you want to have, I would say 16 at least. So I'm gonna put 20 gigabytes. Oh, it's 20 megabytes. 20 gigabytes. Oh, hold on. I have to do this manually. And 21. That's good enough. And then make sure this is a VDI, VirtualBox disk image, and set this to dynamically allocated, and then click create. And now your VirtualBox is created, but we're gonna come back up here to settings, and then under general, not under general, under system, under chipset, leave that at default. Pointing device, I would put this to PS2 mouse, just because I forget why, but I've just always set it to PS2 mouse because I've had some problems with the mouse glitching out when it's under USB tablet. Just do PS2 mouse. And then under processor, we can actually add more cores to our system just to speed it up. I'm going to make it a dual core, so I'm going to add 2 cores. This depends totally on your CPU. If you only have 2 cores, I don't think it's going to let you put more than 2 cores. And then under acceleration, just leave that. Under display, I like to enable acceleration. This just gives us more what you might call it, graphical support. And then I like to up the video RAM to 256. Storage, leave that default. Audio, just looking around real quick, I think we're good here. So now we can click OK and then click start. And here's where we're gonna actually set up our virtual machine. So right here, select disk, or select startup disk. So here you're gonna want to find your ISO, and if you're gonna be using a CD, put the CD in now, and then go down here to just here, explore here this PC, and then make sure. So my disk drive is drive F. So you would set it to host drive F. So it's right now set to my disk drive, but I want to use the ISO file. So just come down here to the folder, click on it, and then go to just find your ISO. So mine's on my desktop, and then double click on it, and then click start. And now Windows is going to start. And then it's gonna, go through the whole setup process. So I'm gonna kind of skip through this just because I think you guys might know how to, or you guys probably know how to set up Windows. So let's go through this real quick, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm gonna just go through this real quick, and I'll be right back. Right here where it asks you to select the operating system, make sure you put Windows Home or Windows Pro. Do not install Windows 10s, trust me, because you can't actually install apps or programs from the internet. You can only install apps from the Windows Store, so make sure you set it to at least Home. And then under custom, or which type of installation do you want, go to custom install, and then click next. Now when asked to press any key to boot from the CD, just don't touch anything. And our VirtualBox, or our Windows 10 has installed. So let's give it a second to completely boot into Windows.
Hi there, I'm Roxana, and I'm Yale. I'll sign in here, there's a Wi-Fi there, and there's a PC right here, I'll send you. You can use your voice key or one way, and if you'd like to say bye, you just need your PC. If you need a system reader, press the Windows Control and Enter keys at the same time to enable narrator. Okay, enough intro, let's begin. Your region is set to Canada, is that? Your keyboard is set to, do you also type with your keyboard layout? Now you know the running updates. Type your email address or phone number, then follow the instructions. You're about to set an offline account, but I want to make sure you know, Windows first layout, type your email address, you're about to set, type you want to name your account. Okay, now type a password for your account. And one more time to make sure you type right. Great, now, with an offline account, if you forget your password, the only way to retrieve it is to enter, so make sure it's several. Hey, good, let's see, we're done. Can it? These are the settings Microsoft recommends. Go ahead and review them and select accept when you're ready. Okay, that's the last step. Almost done now, we just need to get a few more things installed for you, and Windows will be all yours. Looking forward to helping out.
Alright, so it just finished setting up Windows, and let's just close it of Edge here. So the next thing we're going to need to do is install the VirtualBox Guest Editions, and what this is it installs all the system drivers and applications that can optimize, make our system faster, and it also installs video drivers, which can allow us to full screen our VirtualBox, and just like I said, all the system drivers that aren't already installed on our virtual machine, it will install them. So to do this, we're going to need to actually get out of our VirtualBox, and to do that, we're going to need to hit what's called the host key, and by default this is right control. So go ahead on your keyboard and hit and let go right control, and then now you can see my mouse is outside our virtual machine. Now come up here to devices, and then insert guest edition CD image, and you see down here it just popped up. So we're going to go ahead and click on it and run VirtualBox Windows Edition.exe, then click yes, and then just go through the setup here, next, install, and then install, and then reboot now, click finish, and there we go. Now to full screen our virtual machine, all you gotta do is come up here to view and then full screen mode, and then click switch, and now our VirtualBox is full screen, but we actually have to go and mess with the screen resolution in our VirtualBox. So just come down here to display settings. Oh, and it just did it there automatically. It took a second to recognize, but now it's gonna be glitching out in my recording here, but you can see now that our VirtualBox is full screen. It just installed the VirtualBox video drivers, and there we go. It's gonna be glitching. I've noticed when I record VirtualBoxes, in OBS it kind of glitches out. So hold on, let me get out of this real quick. Alright, there we go. Yeah, when I record VirtualBoxes in full screen with OBS, it kind of tends to just glitch out. So I'll just do it in this view here. But pretty much this is our virtual machine all done. If we go to our settings here, system, about, these are all the see, we got 4 gigabytes here. There's my processor, and if we go down here to our Explorer here, this PC, we got the 20 gigabytes I installed, and we have 10 gigabytes free, so it tends to use Windows. Just installing Windows by itself tends to use half, or at least 10 gigabytes. So I'd recommend probably putting like 32 gigabytes, which should be enough. And now we can go ahead and use our virtual machine the way we want to. Now, one final thing I'll show you guys how to do is how to transfer files from our main PC to our virtual machine. So the first thing you're going to need to do is actually make a folder that you want to share with your virtual machine. So I just have a folder I made here called shared folder, and so we just got 2 pictures we're going to share. So just make note where your folder is. So mine's on my desktop. We're going to come back into our virtual machine here and then go to devices, shared folders, and then share folder settings. Then click on the add folder button here, and then folder path, click other, and then find your folder. So mine's on my desktop, shared folder, and select folder. And then I'm going to check make permanent, so whenever we turn off our virtual machine and turn it back on, the folder is always going to be there. It's always going to be shared with our virtual machine. And then click OK, and then OK again. And then to access this folder, come down into the Explorer here, and then under network, so it's turned off, we got to turn this on. So let's click up here and then turn on, and then yes. And then here you'll see that VirtualBox SV, VirtualBox VR. Well, this is our folder here. So we go in here, and then you can see shared underscore folder, and we have the 2 pictures here that I shared with the virtual machine. And then you can always, move them over here if you want and do whatever you want with them. So that's pretty much it for this video. We have our virtual machine set up, we installed guest editions, and we shared folders with our main PC. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope this helped. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If it did, leave a like. If it didn't, leave a dislike. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below, obviously. And I will see you guys in my next video.